Hi. I'd like to thank Shepherd Ferry for opening for me. Like Sean mentioned, the main thing that I do is intellectual property research. And I want to tell you a little bit about a project that I've been working on for, I guess, a little over a year now, which is about how the online adult entertainment industry has dealt with copyright enforcement difficulties in the digital age. So the intuition behind this project was, or is kind of, we're experiencing this time of technological disruption right now because. All right, can you hear me now? In the back? All right. Okay. Anyway, so the internet has fundamentally changed the way that we share and distribute information, obviously. So we have a lot of content industries that are grappling with these changes right now, and our laws are grappling with these changes. And it's because, basically, so we have this copyright system that was devised way back in the day of the printing press. And now we're trying to apply these laws to this new architecture that is specifically designed to, copy and share information and digital files. And like we're applying these laws to something that, basically that's the main purpose of the internet, right? So there's this huge fuss around copyright law right now, and we're looking at all these content industries, like the film industry, the music industry, the book industry, the news media, and whatnot. And one industry that has just gotten comparatively little attention in all of these like policy debates is, of course, the adult entertainment industry. So, here we have this billion-dollar industry that makes entertainment goods, and policymakers are kind of reluctant to talk about it, and academics won't research it. There's a little bit of research, on the social issues and surrounding, porn and the societal impact, but there's like really little serious economic research on it and looking at it kind of as a market. And I get that people don't want to ruin their careers or whatever, but I just, as I have been told multiple times. But I think it's unfortunate. I really think that it's unfortunate because anyone who has the slightest bit of interest in economics should find this industry fascinating. We don't know that much about it, but what we do know kind of intuitively and anecdotally is that it's incredibly fast-paced. It's very flexible, adaptive. There are short product cycles. The demand in this market is incredible. People have tried to estimate how much of the internet's bandwidth is, dedicated to pornography, and I don't think we have exact numbers, but any guess is massive, of course. And we also have this common lore that porn drives technology. So this industry has always been on the forefront of adopting new media formats. They've driven the success of new media formats, ever since back in the time of the paperback book. They've driven home video standards, like the whole VHS versus Betamax story. There was the whole HD versus Blu-ray thing. They drove cable television. When the industry moved online, they were the first to pioneer, secure online payment systems and high-definition streaming video and all this stuff. So it just seems that given the adaptiveness of this industry and the uniqueness of this industry, but also that it's so similar to some of the industries that policymakers really care about in all these reform debates, it just seems like a really interesting subject to study in this context, in the context of innovation policy. And so that's what I've been doing. I went and I talked to a bunch of industry specialists and lawyers and bloggers, and then I went and I interviewed content producers to ask them how they were dealing with this tech disruption, how they were dealing with online piracy and all these things. And I also went to some industry conferences, and my academic colleagues envisioned this kind of as me in some Playboy bunny mansion with a bunch of like old dudes in like gold chains doing blow off of like naked women. And as some of you may imagine, that's not exactly the case. These were like serious business conferences where people walk around in suits, and there are these boring panels on billing 101 and legal issues. And like I swear it's at least as boring as any other industry conference you've ever been to. And it has to be, though, because nowadays, if you want to succeed in this industry, you really have to be serious, and you have to be professional and smart. And it didn't always used to be this way. So, I mean, when the industry first moved online, it attracted all sorts of people to the business because it was basically a gold mine. I mean, another kind of interesting thing about this industry is that consumers have really strong privacy preferences. So enabling people to purchase adult content like from their personal computers and not having to deal with like physical objects like DVDs or like mail order or whatever just like led to an explosion of the business. And so that was, good, and the barriers to entry were really low. And then piracy started, of course. But so in this industry, like, it wasn't just piracy. It was also, I mean, the barriers to entry were so low that like any idiot could come in and set up a website and charge like $29.99 a month and make money. And so like a lot of these sites turned into scams, and there was a lot of stuff, like they would hijack your browser, and there were all these pop-ups, and then they would install malware on your computer, and then the people would like start banging your credit card and like charging small amounts to it that like you wouldn't notice for a while. And there was all this like, they had pre-check cross sales where you'd sign up for like a free trial to a site, and like in your impatience wouldn't read the fine print, so you wouldn't realize that you were signing up for like 4 other sites, and that it would automatically like charge your credit card, and then they wouldn't like, if you tried to terminate it, like nothing would happen, and then you'd have to make this embarrassing call to the credit card company. So like in the end, people were driven to piracy not just because it was free, but also because it was in a way safer. But still, so back then, like, file sharing was still, like, it was really unreliable. You didn't know what you were getting. There were a ton of viruses. It took really long to download a file, so, like, it's not like...
Sorry.
No problem. Oh. Oh, Ripley. I remember Tara tweeted something a few weeks ago, a quote from Ripley saying, "That's really loud porn." So I don't feel bad about speaking while he's here. Anyway, yeah, so file sharing, consumers in this market are also kind of, impatient. So it's not like I'm downloading this music album or this movie, this Hollywood movie, and I'm okay with waiting 2 hours until it downloads. Like, people want stuff immediately. So I think, like, producers were still able to capitalize on that sense of urgency, and like the industry seemed to be doing like really, really well still around, I guess, 2004. And then kind of this perfect storm happened in, I think it was 2005, maybe someone knows. Around that time, the platform for YouTube was developed, and that ended up spawning a bunch of porn tube sites, which are like YouTube, but for adult content. And now people could like upload content that was often, not authorized, and people could watch content for free, and they had instant access, they could browse stuff. So the tube sites happened, and then at that point, well, a couple of years later, the economy crashed. And that kind of blew everything up, because another thing that people say about this market is that demand is comparatively inelastic, meaning it's more recession resistant than for other entertainment goods. But that just isn't very helpful if people can substitute paid stuff for free stuff. So no one's going to pay if it's legal and free to consume it. So that kind of undermined the traditional business model of creating and selling content. And copyright law is designed to deal with this problem because it allows creators to recoup their investment costs. But copyright law in this instant wasn't working for them because, even more so than for the other industries, litigating, the industry was really kind of more fragmented back then. There were a lot of small firms, and they couldn't really afford to engage in really costly litigation. And also, as some of you may know, you can't sue these intermediaries, these tube sites. It's the same thing as Google and YouTube. They're protected under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. So all you can do is send takedown notices, which is kind of, in this industry, turned out to be a serious whack-a-mole game. Because even for firms that had the means to do the thing that Sony does and automate it and send automated takedown notices, it kind of would reappear instantly. And a lot of people insinuate that the tube operators themselves were putting the content back up because they make money off the traffic, but that couldn't really be proven. So it just turned into a whack-a-mole game. And so I guess the third thing that people can try to use copyright laws for is, there's been a lot of fuss recently, and if you read tech blogs and stuff, about the porn industry engaging in BitTorrent end user litigation in these mass file sharing lawsuits. And everyone's yeah, the porn industry is doing this. It's actually, so I researched this pretty extensively. It's not the porn industry, it's always the same companies. It's a maximum of 8 companies that are doing this. And you'll also notice that not only is it always the same companies, a lot of these companies do gay male porn. And so why? Well, it turns out that it's really easy to get cash settlements from people if you threaten to make public that they've been downloading gay porn. So, and courts are kind of furious with this. They're this is extortion. They're tossing out these lawsuits whenever they can. So whether this is going to work out for these companies in the long run, I don't know. What I do know is that the producers that I talk to, most of them don't engage in BitTorrent litigation for a lot of reasons that I could talk about for hours. But the main reason is just it's not worth it to them. So copyright law is not really working out, and a lot of companies, as a result, did end up going out of business. And the news or the press is all over this. They're the porn industry is dying. The internet has killed porn, and it's true. Times are really tough, and you can tell why. But still, I think that we are underestimating the adaptiveness of this industry in a way. Because if you look at previous technological disruptions and the players that survived those, you'll notice that none of these companies spent a single second trying to fight change or trying to hold on to old business models. They would take a new environment and they would be okay, what do we do with this? And so you see this. So Playboy back in the 90s realized that people were taking their images and without authorization and copying them and distributing them online, and they look at this and they're this is cool. This is free marketing for us. So as long as the images have the Playboy bunny on them, we don't have to pay for like advertising or anything. People are just spreading our stuff around and strengthening our brand. And then they would even like contact people using their images and be like, hey, would you be interested in putting a link back to our site? Because if you do, we'll pay you money for everyone who signs up to our new subscription service. And so they started giving away content as a loss leader and started offering something that people were still willing to pay for out of convenience, this subscription thing. And they kind of tried to turn it into a win-win situation. And we see similar things happening now. So more and more companies are giving away, you know, free clips and free content and trying to strengthen their brand and draw people to their sites and trying to sell them something that people are still willing to pay for. Now, so what people are still willing to pay for, two of those things are convenience and experience. Because, you know, I mean, coffee beans can be really cheap, but you're still gonna pay $1 more to have someone prepare the coffee for you, and you're still gonna pay $3 more to have someone in a Starbucks prepare this for you because of the whole atmosphere or whatever. And so, I mean, if we talk about services and convenience in this industry, I mean, a lot of people who still do pay for adult content, and this is anecdotal, but like I think it's true. They'll pay for the convenience of not having to go sift through the free stuff. And so like to that extent, subscription models still kind of work. Like if you can curate content that's like reflective of someone's preferences, that's still worth paying for. But also, you know, companies are playing with all these new models. Like they're playing with Netflix-style models, and they moved into the mobile market really quickly, which, you know, especially now with tablets, there's this booming app market for Android devices, for adult content Android devices. Not Apple, because Apple doesn't allow adult content apps. But even like for Apple devices, I think porn companies were like among the first, if not the first, to optimize their sites for like mobile viewing. So I mean, you can still use your browser. And another thing that companies are offering now, or starting to offer, is like cloud services. So you can store your entire like library of content in the cloud, which is I mean, you don't have it on your hard drive anymore. You can access it from anywhere, from any device, and they're like really working to make like cross-platform, wireless streaming, everything work. So that's something that people will shell out for. And then there's the whole experience aspect. So the thing that I noticed is that, like from talking to people, is that there's been this massive shift in the industry towards interactivity. So there's a lot more live chat and live cam and, you know, I don't know, it's like choose your own adventure style models. And the interesting thing about this stuff is, I mean, so live cam, I mean, it's very personal. You can, and people will take requests, and I guess it can satisfy more than one need too, because, so for instance, one of the live cam operators was telling me that one of the girls gets paid like a couple hours a week just to play chess with someone. And I mean, like whether this is good or not from a social perspective, like I don't know, that's not for me to say, but I think like from an economic perspective, the really interesting key thing here is that that's something that can't be pirated. You can pirate the feed of a live cam and like spread it around, but you can't copy the experience. And so they've realized that, and so they're really moving into that. Other types of experiences are like gaming, video games. Like I guess now that there's more consolidation in the industry and there's more kind of vertical integration and more like cross-benching of stuff, that like they have the capital to invest in high quality games, which is something they didn't have before. So they're dabbling in that. There's also like virtual worlds, virtual strip clubs, stuff like that. And they also, of course, have their eye on all of this coming technology to improve home viewing. So I guess, you know, at some point when we have 3D movies that you don't need to like wear special glasses for. That could be something on the horizon. I also know a couple producers who are already like brainstorming uses for Google Glass. I'm not sure what exactly, but they're on the ball. Like there's stuff coming, and they're going to be the first to like try stuff out. I guess so. Yeah, and another type of experience is kind of community building, which seems far-fetched, but like if you take kink.com in San Francisco, I don't know if any of you know them. They're currently trying to create this very participatory kind of community kind of style experience surrounding certain types of kink. And this ranges from, having tourists over to their building and giving tours of their building to like giggling people, to like having people actually participate in certain scenes or certain experiences. And they also have like this community, like this. You can still hear me, right? Okay, so like they're trying to, they have this like social network and like live cam community and stuff. So that all ties into kind of experiences that people will still pay for. And I guess, I mean, you could argue that the reason that there are smart players in this industry who are like making things work right now is because the industry has advantages over other industries. Like a couple things I've mentioned, like the impatience aspect that consumers have, or like the privacy preferences, or the fact that production costs are much lower than for like Hollywood films. Like if you take the most expensive porn ever made, it was Pirates, and that cost $1 million to make. And if you take like the actual Pirates of the Caribbean, it cost I think like $300 million to make. So there's a huge difference there. And also like the Pirates was like a full-length feature film with props and acting and all this stuff. And like if you think about the core product of this industry, I don't really think that it's full-length feature films. They've looked at the average time that people will watch adult movies in hotel rooms, and it's like 12 minutes. So, I mean, and shorter clips are way cheaper to make too. But still, like even with these kind of advantages, I still think that the industry has so many disadvantages also compared to other industries. Like, I mean, like I mentioned, they're not allowed on Apple products, so they're banned from Apple TV, for instance. Then they have, hang on, I had like a list. They have, they can't use like mainstream marketing. They can't work with mainstream marketing partners. Some of them are trying right now, but it's tough because even if you can get people to work with you, like if you're gonna show ads for like shoes and cologne and whatever, like, really, are people really gonna shop for like ties after the fact, on your site? I mean, I don't know. Like maybe some are trying that. They also they don't have the same kind of viral marketing or the same kind of like word of mouth marketing that other industries do. So like part of the success of Netflix was due to word of mouth marketing, and but like I don't know, porn clips don't tend to really go viral. I think like the reason that people aren't sharing them on Facebook isn't just the terms of service. So that's a disadvantage. And another thing is that they're in a high risk category for credit card companies, so they can't make use of things like micropayment models, where like for instance in the virtual strip club, just like charging people a couple dollars per thing, it doesn't work for them. Like they have to charge like at least $20, so they have to find a way to make that work with tokens and stuff. So like they just have they're socially stigmatized, right? They're not going to get any support from law enforcement or from policymakers. So there's a lot of red tape there. And, still, the smart players right now seem to be making things work. So I think that in the context of innovation policy, in the context of looking at all of these industries that produce entertainment goods that we care about, I really think that we should keep an eye on this industry too. I think that it's interesting to look at and study, and I also think that adult entertainment is not going to disappear anytime soon. Thank you.